In the village of Kidali, life moved slowly. The sun rose gently over red-tiled roofs, and the small dirt roads wound between houses with bright blue doors. Chickens clucked in the courtyards, and the smell of fresh bread and roasted corn filled the air. People walked along the streets, greeting each other with smiles and nods. Life was simple and everyone thought they knew each other well. In the midst of this ordinary village lived a quiet girl named Amina. She lived with her grandmother Hawa, in a small house on the edge of the village, near a garden full of colorful flowers. Amina was not like the other children. She had a calm and thoughtful presence, and she often walked slowly, paying attention to the smallest things. The way the sunlight danced on the leaves, the gentle rustling of the wind, or the soft chirping of birds. Her hair was neatly braided into tight rows, and she wore simple clothes that were clean but plain. Despite her gentle nature, children in the village often mocked her. Tay and Lila, two mischievous children from her school, would follow her around, whispering and laughing. "Why does she always walk so quietly?" Lila would giggle. "She looks like she thinks she is better than everyone else." Tay would nod, pointing at her braids. "And her hair is always so neat. It's strange. Who even has time for that?" Amina ignored their teasing. She did not shout or fight back. Instead, she smiled politely and continued walking, as if the words could not touch her. The villagers had grown used to seeing the children tease her. Some of them thought she was just too quiet or maybe a little odd. They whispered behind their hands, calling her strange little Amina, but Amina did not mind. She had learned long ago that there was no reason to respond to unkind words. Hawa, her grandmother, often watched the village children from the porch. She was a kind woman with silver hair and a gentle face lined with wisdom. Hawa knew that Amina was special even if no one else did. She often whispered softly to her granddaughter, "Do not mind them, Amina. One day they will see who you truly are." Amina would smile at her grandmother's words and nod. She did not fully understand them yet, but she felt warmth in her heart. She had always known that she was different, but in ways that were good, she hoped. For example, animals and birds seemed to be drawn to her. Cats would curl up near her feet, and birds would perch nearby, chirping softly as if they understood her. Even the flowers in Hawa's garden seemed to bloom brighter when she watered them. She could not explain why and she did not question it. It was simply a part of who she was. The village of Kidali was small, so everyone noticed each other's actions. When Amina walked to the market to fetch bread or vegetables, people often stared, wondering why she moved so quietly and gracefully. They did not understand that Amina listened to the world in a special way. She paid attention to the small things, the soft sound of water dripping from the well, the faint rustle of leaves under a bird's foot, the quiet hum of bees in the flowers. To her, these sounds were as important as the voices of people, and she felt connected to everything around her. One morning as she walked to the market, Tay and Lila appeared again. "Look, there she goes." Lila whispered loudly enough for Amina to hear. "The quiet girl who thinks she's a princess or something." Tay laughed. "I wonder if she even talks at all. Maybe she only speaks to the birds and the flowers." Amina paused for a moment and looked at them. She did not shout or reply. Instead, she continued walking, noticing a small butterfly that had landed on a flower along the road. She smiled softly, and the butterfly fluttered its wings, flying alongside her for a short distance. The children stared at her, puzzled. "What is she smiling at?" Tay asked. "Who knows?" Lila said. "She's so weird." Amina ignored them and reached the market, where the vendors greeted her warmly. She liked the market because it was full of life, with smells, colors, and sounds that no one else noticed fully. The bread seller, Bina, smiled at her. "Good morning, Amina. How are you today?" "I am well, thank you," Amina replied softly. "Here is your bread," Bina said, handing her a small loaf. Amina paid with the coins Hawa had given her and walked back home slowly, enjoying the small sounds around her, the distant clucking of chickens, the soft cry of a baby, the rustling of leaves in the wind. She liked to notice things that others overlooked. Back at home, Hawa was waiting. "Did the children bother you again?" she asked gently. "Only a little," Amina said. "But it does not matter." Hawa nodded. "Good. Remember, Amina, your kindness and patience are your strength. Some people may mock you now, but one day they will understand that there is more to you than they see." Amina nodded and went to her room to water the small plants she kept near her window. As she poured water carefully over the soil, she noticed that the flowers leaned slightly toward her hands as if they were reaching for her. She smiled. She had always loved this quiet connection with nature. It gave her comfort when the village felt loud and harsh. The days passed in a similar rhythm. Amina walked to school quietly listening and observing. She helped younger children when they fell or lost something, and she spoke gently to anyone who asked for advice. She remained calm even when Tay and Lila laughed at her or whispered mean things. Slowly, some children began to notice that she was different in a good way. Sefiu, a shy boy in her class, said one day, "Amina, you always help people. How do you do that?" Amina smiled at him. "I just listen, Sefiu. Listening helps you know what to do." Some of the children thought she was wise, though others still teased her. But Amina no longer felt hurt. She had learned that being kind and noticing the small things was more important than anyone's laughter or words. In the evenings, Amina and Hawa would sit together in the garden. Hawa would tell stories of faraway lands, kings and queens, and Amina would listen quietly, imagining herself in those tales. She loved the stories and she often thought that one day she too would have an important role, though she did not yet know how or when. Evening fell over Kidali, painting the sky in orange and pink. The village grew quiet. Amina stood at the doorway listening to the soft sounds of night, the chirping of crickets, the distant mooing of cows, the whisper of the wind through the trees. She felt a deep connection to the world around her. Hawa came to her side and put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Amina, you are special. Never forget that. Some people may not understand now, but one day your true self will shine and they will see it." Amina nodded and looked at the stars beginning to appear in the sky. She felt a small thrill inside her, a feeling that something wonderful was waiting for her. For now she was just a quiet girl in a small village, ignored and teased by some. But she knew, deep in her heart, that she was more than anyone imagined. The village of Kidali slept peacefully that night, unaware of the quiet girl who walked among them with kindness, patience, and a secret spark that no one had yet noticed. And as Amina lay down to sleep, she felt a soft sense of hope and belonging, knowing that one day her true abilities and her unique nature would matter in ways no one could guess. The harvest festival in the village of Kidali was the most awaited event of the year. Everyone looked forward to it. The children, the vendors, the elders, and even the animals seemed to feel the excitement in the air. Stalls were set up in the village square, covered with bright cloths, and the smell of fresh bread, roasted corn, and sweet fruits filled every corner. The villagers began preparing days before, but this year something was wrong. The festival committee, made up of a few older villagers, struggled to organize everything. Tables were crooked, decorations were half-finished, and some of the children assigned to help kept getting into arguments over small things. The adults were stressed and muttered to each other in frustration. "This festival might fail," said Bina, a fruit vendor, shaking her head. "We cannot get all this ready in time." Amina watched quietly from a distance as the villagers tried to sort out the chaos. Her small hands rested on the basket she carried, filled with vegetables she had picked that morning. She noticed that no one seemed to think clearly, and the children were confused and noisy. She took a deep breath and walked toward the group. "Excuse me," she said softly, her voice gentle but clear. The villagers turned to look at her. Some smiled politely while others frowned, thinking that the quiet girl might not have any ideas worth listening to. Tay and Lila were nearby and whispered to each other, "What can she do? She is just a little girl." Amina did not let their words bother her. She looked around carefully and said, "I think we can organize this if we work together step by step. First, we should arrange the stalls in rows so that people can walk easily. Then we can finish the decorations. After that, we can prepare the games and the food." Her voice was calm, and her words carried a quiet authority that made the villagers pause. They had never heard her speak like this before. There was no shouting or bossiness, just clear instructions spoken with care. Slowly the adults began to nod. "Perhaps she is right," said Marembi, a kind elder who often guided the festivals. "Let's listen to her ideas. They are simple and they make sense." Amina smiled softly and continued. "We should also assign small tasks to the children carefully so no one gets confused or upset. Each person should know what they are responsible for." The villagers began to follow her instructions. Amina moved gently among them, giving advice where needed and showing the children how to help. She suggested that the stalls selling fruits be placed near the food area, that tables be covered with brightly colored cloths, and that ribbons be tied neatly to poles to make the decorations look cheerful. The children listened closely. Even Tay and Lila stopped whispering and began helping. "She knows what she's doing," Lila muttered, tying a ribbon around a post. Tay nodded, arranging the tables as Amina had shown. The villagers were surprised by the calm authority of this quiet girl. She did not order them around, yet they obeyed. She did not shout, yet everyone worked together efficiently. Slowly, the festival square began to transform. The crooked tables were straightened, the stalls were organized, the ribbons were tied perfectly, and the children worked happily under Amina's guidance. Hawa watched from the edge of the square, her heart full of pride. She knew that Amina's talents were not ordinary. "They do not know, Amina," Hawa whispered softly as she walked beside her granddaughter. "They do not know that you are the queen of Ndari. But today they will see a glimpse of the truth." Amina smiled at her grandmother. She felt a quiet strength growing inside her. She had always been careful to hide her special nature, but now she realized that helping the villagers with their festival was important. It was not just about being clever or strong, it was about making a difference. As the day continued, Amina moved through the festival preparations, quietly noticing problems before they happened. When a basket of fruits was about to fall from a table, she caught it. When a child stumbled, she guided them to a safe spot. When the decorations were tangled, she untied them gently. Every small action made the work smoother and faster. The villagers began to whisper among themselves. "She is incredible," said Bina, handing Amina a small loaf of bread. "I have never seen anyone organize a festival like this, and she is just a girl." "Yes," agreed Marembi. "Her ideas are simple, but she makes everyone work together. It is remarkable." Even Tay and Lila were impressed. They could not hide their surprise. "I did not think she could do this," Tay admitted softly. "She really knows what she is doing." Amina remained humble. She smiled softly and continued her work, guiding everyone patiently. She did not boast and she did not demand praise. Her goal was simple: to help the village have a beautiful festival. By late afternoon, the festival square was almost ready. The tables were covered with fresh fruits and bread, the ribbons shone in the sunlight, and the children were proud of their work. The villagers were amazed at how efficiently everything had been completed. Many of them had expected chaos and stress, but under Amina's quiet guidance, everything was ready. Hawa came forward and placed her hand on Amina's shoulder. "You see, Amina," she said, her eyes soft with pride. "You do not need to be loud or boastful to lead. You only need patience, wisdom, and kindness. Today the village has seen a part of your true self. One day they will understand all of it." Amina nodded. She felt a warmth in her heart. For the first time she realized that her quiet nature was not a weakness, it was her strength. Her ability to listen, observe, and guide others made her special. The villagers may have mocked her before, but now they saw the value of her calm presence. As evening approached, the villagers began to leave the festival square, satisfied with the preparations. Some of them, still whispering, could not help but praise the quiet girl who had organized everything. Even Tay and Lila approached Amina cautiously. We were wrong about you," Lila said softly. "You are really smart and helpful." Tay nodded in agreement. "Yes. I did not think you could do all this." Amina smiled gently. "It does not matter," she said softly. "I just wanted to help. That is all." The villagers left with a sense of wonder and respect for the quiet girl. Only Hawa knew the full truth, that Amina was not just clever or kind. She was the rightful queen of Ndari, visiting the village in disguise to understand the people and learn how to lead with wisdom and compassion. That night, as the sun set over Kidali, Amina sat with Hawa in the garden. The stars began to appear in the sky, twinkling like tiny lights above the village. Amina thought about the festival, about how she had guided the villagers, and about how some people had started to see her in a new light. Hawa smiled at her. "You have done well today, Amina. The village will remember your kindness and your leadership. They may not know all of who you are yet, but one day they will." Amina felt a quiet pride. She realized that being different, being quiet, thoughtful, and careful, was not a weakness. It was part of her strength. She did not need everyone to understand her, only to act with patience, wisdom, and courage. The sun rose brightly over the village of Kidali, spilling golden light over the red roofs and dusty roads. The harvest festival preparations were almost complete, and the villagers were busy with small tasks. Children ran around helping where they could, while adults carried baskets of fruits, arranged tables, and tied colorful ribbons to poles. Laughter and chatter filled the village square, and the smell of fresh bread, roasted corn, and sweet fruits made the morning feel lively and warm. Amina walked through the village quietly, her eyes observing everything around her. She had already helped organize much of the festival, but now she watched the people, noticing small problems before they happened. She smiled softly to herself, pleased that her guidance had been working well. The villagers were beginning to follow her instructions without her needing to speak loudly, and even the children who once teased her had started paying attention. As she walked near the edge of the village fields, she suddenly heard a faint sound. It was soft and high-pitched, almost drowned by the noises of the market and the festival preparations. Amina's ears twitched. She stopped and listened carefully. There it was again, a faint bleating sound coming from far away. Amina recognized the sound immediately. It was a goat and it was in trouble. She knew it must belong to someone in the village, as no other goats wandered near the festival area. The bleating was weak, almost scared, and Amina's heart went out to the little animal. She followed the sound, walking carefully through the narrow dirt paths that led to the fields just outside the village. As she approached, she saw a young boy, Bako, running frantically around the field, calling out, "Pilai! Pilai! Where are you?" Bako's small hands were shaking and his face was worried. The goat, a tiny brown and white kid named Pilai, was stuck with its legs tangled in a small bush near a rocky patch. The goat bleated again, frightened, struggling to free itself. Amina ran gently toward the goat. "It's okay, Pilai," she said softly, kneeling down beside the animal. Her hands moved carefully to untangle the bush without hurting the goat. Bako watched nervously, unsure if anyone could save the little creature. "Be careful," he called. "Don't hurt her." "I will not hurt her," Amina replied calmly. "She is just scared." Slowly and patiently, she untangled the branches that held Pilai's legs. She stroked the goat's head gently, whispering soothing words. The bleating softened as Pilai realized she was safe. In a few moments, the goat was free and jumped up, rubbing against Amina's arms as if to say thank you. Bako ran forward, his eyes wide with relief. "Thank you, Amina. I thought I'd never find her." Amina smiled softly. She was just scared. "It is easy to help if we stay calm and look carefully." Bako's mother, Muna, came running toward them. "Amina, you found Pilai. I cannot believe it." She looked at her daughter with admiration. "You are so wise and careful. How did you hear her?" Amina shrugged gently. "I just listened and I followed the sound." Word of Amina's help spread quickly through the village. People who had been watching the festival preparations noticed her calm and careful way of solving problems. Slowly, admiration for her grew. Villagers began to see her not just as the quiet girl who walked through the village, but as someone who could help and guide them. Even Tay, who had teased Amina before, was surprised. I didn't know she could do that," he whispered to Lila. She really helps people." Lila nodded slowly. "Yes, she is brave and smart. Maybe we were wrong about her." Amina did not respond to the whispers. She returned Pilai to Bako, who hugged the goat tightly. Then she stood quietly, observing the villagers as they went about their work. Her eyes noticed small problems before they happened: a basket that was about to tip over, a ribbon that needed tying, or a table that needed straightening. Each time she acted quietly and efficiently, helping without making a scene. The villagers began asking her for advice more often. When a vendor, Bina, couldn't figure out how to arrange her fruits, Amina knelt beside her and suggested a way that made the display both neat and beautiful. When a child, Sefu, got upset because his game piece was lost, Amina calmly helped him search until it was found. Each small act made her role in the village more respected. Hawa watched from her porch, a quiet smile on her face. She knew that the villagers were beginning to see what she had always known. "They will learn slowly, Amina," she whispered. "Not everyone will understand at once, but your actions will show them your true nature." As the day went on, Amina continued helping wherever she could. She carried baskets, arranged tables, guided children, and solved small problems that could have grown into bigger issues. Slowly, the villagers began to notice the difference she made. They began to realize that this quiet girl had wisdom and courage beyond her years. Even though some children still whispered and teased, they could not ignore her abilities. Tay still muttered to himself, She might be smart, but she is still quiet. I don't understand how she does it." Lila shook her head. "I think she is different, but maybe different is not bad." By the afternoon, the festival square looked perfect. The stalls were neat, the decorations shone in the sunlight, and the children were happily playing in organized games. The villagers had learned to work together under Amina's guidance, and the day ran smoothly. Amina walked through the square quietly, observing everything. She noticed small details that others missed: a loose ribbon on a post, a basket that needed a small adjustment, a child who looked tired and needed rest. She moved carefully, solving each problem before it grew. Her calm presence made everyone feel safe and supported. Some villagers came forward to thank her directly. "Amina, you have helped so much," Muna said. We would not have done this without you. Bako smiled shyly. You saved Pilai. You are amazing. Amina smiled softly. I just listened and helped. That is all. The villagers began to see that her quietness and patience were her strength. They realized that being calm, careful, and thoughtful could achieve more than shouting, rushing, or complaining. Slowly, respect for Amina grew. By the end of the day, even Tay and Lila had begun to admire her. They no longer mocked her openly, though their whispers still hinted at disbelief. I don't understand her, Tay said quietly, shaking his head. But she is really good at helping people. Lila nodded. Yes. Maybe we judged her too quickly. She is different, but I think different is good. Amina returned home that evening, carrying a small basket of vegetables she had picked earlier. Hawa was waiting on the porch. Did you help many people today? She asked, her eyes warm with pride. Amina nodded. Yes, grandmother. They needed help and I listened carefully. I tried to solve their problems quietly. Hawa smiled. That is good. You are learning that your quiet ways are your gift. You can do much without shouting or demanding attention. One day they will understand fully. Amina sat in the garden that evening, looking at the flowers and listening to the sounds of the village settling down for the night. The crickets chirped softly, and the leaves rustled gently in the wind. She felt a sense of quiet pride. Even though some children still whispered and teased, she knew that she had made a difference. The morning of the harvest festival dawned bright and cheerful in the village of Kidali. The stalls were decorated with colorful ribbons, baskets overflowed with fresh fruits and vegetables, and the air was filled with the smell of bread baking and roasted corn. Children ran happily between the tables, laughing and playing games. Villagers greeted one another with smiles, feeling the excitement and joy of the day. Amina walked quietly through the festival square, her eyes observing everything. The preparations she had helped organize were perfect. The tables were straight, the decorations shone in the sunlight, and the children were ready for games. She smiled softly to herself, proud of the work she had guided. The villagers who had once teased her had begun to admire her wisdom and calm presence. Some were still a little unsure, like Tay and Lila, but even they could not deny that the festival looked wonderful. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered over the village, moving quickly across the sky. The sunlight faded and the wind began to blow stronger. The villagers looked up, worried. Oh no! A storm! Shouted Bina, the fruit vendor. The decorations will be ruined and the food will be ruined too. People began running around, trying to secure the stalls and cover the baskets of fruits and bread. The children panicked, dropping games and rushing to help. Tables wobbled in the wind and colorful ribbons flapped violently. The festival, which had been so perfect moments ago, was now in danger. Amina stood quietly for a moment, watching the chaos. She could feel the fear and confusion of the villagers. But instead of panicking, she took a deep breath and began to move calmly through the square. Her voice, though soft, carried authority. Everyone stop, she said gently but firmly. We can save the festival if we work together carefully. Move the food under the tents, tie the ribbons tightly, and help the children stay safe. Some villagers paused, surprised by her calm and commanding tone. They had never heard her speak like this in a moment of crisis. Slowly, they began to follow her instructions, and a sense of order started to return. Amina guided the children to safety first. Come here, she said to Bako, Sefu, and a few others. Stand near the big tree and hold hands. Do not run. The wind is strong, but we will be safe here. The children obeyed without question. Even Tay and Lila joined, realizing that Amina knew exactly what to do. Next, she moved toward the stalls, helping the vendors secure their goods. She tied ropes to hold the tables in place, moved the baskets of fruits and bread to the center of the tents, and calmed the panicked villagers. Keep calm, she said gently. Do not rush. We can handle this together. The storm grew stronger and the wind howled across the village square. Rain began to fall in heavy drops, splashing on the ground and soaking the decorations. But Amina remained calm, moving among the people with a quiet confidence that encouraged them to keep working. Slowly, under her guidance, the stalls were secured, the food protected, and the decorations tied down. Then, as she stood in the center of the square, she realized that the villagers still did not fully understand who she was. They had admired her wisdom and calmness before, but now, in a moment of crisis, it was the perfect time to reveal the truth. Amina reached beneath her simple clothes and took out a golden necklace, gleaming even in the dim light of the storm. It was a delicate chain with a pendant shaped like a sun, the symbol of her family and her kingdom, Ndari. She held it up for everyone to see. I am Amina, she said clearly, her voice ringing across the square despite the storm. I am the Queen of Ndari. For a moment there was complete silence. The villagers froze, staring at the quiet girl who had guided them through the preparations and the storm. Some of the children dropped their hands in surprise. Tay's mouth hung open and Lila's eyes widened. You are the queen? Bina whispered, stepping back in shock. Yes, Amina said softly. I have been here in your village to learn and to help. I did not reveal myself because I wanted to understand you and your needs first. The villagers could hardly believe it. The quiet girl they had teased, the one they thought was strange and small, had been their queen all along. And not only that, she had guided them through the festival preparations and now through the storm, keeping everyone safe. Murmurs spread through the crowd. I never would have guessed, said Mirembe the elder. She has the wisdom of a queen and the courage of a leader. Bako ran forward, holding Pili the goat tightly. Amina, you saved the festival. You are amazing. Amina smiled gently. I only did what was needed. The village works together, and we can face challenges if we remain calm and help one another. The storm began to pass and the villagers looked around. Everything was safe. The stalls were secure, the food was protected, and the decorations had survived. The festival square, though wet, looked as cheerful as it had before. The people realized that without Amina's guidance, the storm could have caused disaster. Tay stepped forward, his head lowered. I'm sorry, Amina. I mocked you before. I did not understand. You are wise and brave. Lila nodded. Me too. We were wrong. You are amazing. Amina smiled kindly at them. It is all right. What matters is that we worked together and kept everyone safe. Hawa stepped forward, her eyes full of pride. She had always known Amina was special, and now the villagers could see it for themselves. Your heart, patience and courage have guided them, she said softly. That is the mark of a true queen. Slowly the villagers began to cheer. The children ran through the square, laughing and clapping. The adults smiled and nodded, realizing that Amina's quiet nature had been a strength all along. She had not needed to shout or demand attention. She had led with calm, wisdom, and care. Even Tay and Lila joined the celebration, helping to pick up wet decorations and smiling at Amina. We understand now, Lila said. You were different, but you were right. We were wrong to mock you. The sun began to shine again as the storm passed, casting a warm glow over the village square. A rainbow appeared in the sky, its colors bright and beautiful. The villagers looked at Amina with new respect and admiration. They had learned an important lesson. Appearances can be deceiving and quiet strength can often be more powerful than loud words. Amina walked calmly through the square, helping where needed and smiling gently at the people around her. She did not feel proud or boastful. Her joy came from seeing the festival safe, the villagers happy and the children laughing. She had tested her abilities in a moment of true challenge and had succeeded, showing courage, wisdom and kindness. That evening, as the festival continued with music, dancing and laughter, the villagers could not stop talking about Amina. The quiet girl they once mocked was their queen, their guide, and their protector. Everyone felt lucky to have her among them. The sun rose gently over the village of Kidali, casting warm golden light over the rooftops and the festival square. After the storm had passed the day before, the villagers woke to a clear sky, the air fresh and clean. Birds chirped happily in the trees, and a soft breeze carried the scent of flowers from Hawa's garden. The harvest festival was ready to continue, and the villagers were filled with joy and relief. Amina walked through the square quietly, observing the stalls and decorations. The tables were neatly arranged, baskets of fruits and bread looked inviting, and the colorful ribbons shimmered in the sunlight. Children ran excitedly, laughing and playing games, while adults greeted one another with smiles, still marveling at how well the previous day had gone despite the storm. The villagers had learned an important lesson the day before. They now understood the value of calmness, patience and careful guidance. They had witnessed the quiet girl, Amina, lead them through challenges, and they had begun to respect her for her wisdom and courage. Even those who had mocked her before, like Tay and Lila, had changed. Tay approached Amina shyly, lowering his head. Amina, he said softly, I am sorry. I was wrong to laugh at you. You are brave and you helped everyone. Lila nodded, her eyes wide with sincerity. We were foolish. You are wise and strong. I admire you now. Amina smiled gently at them. It is all right. What matters is that we worked together and kept everyone safe. That is more important than anything else. The festival continued with music, dancing, and laughter. Drums beat a steady rhythm as the villagers moved in circles, holding hands and enjoying the celebration. Children played games, laughing as they chased one another through the colorful tents. Adults joined in the dances, smiling and clapping to the music. The festival, which had almost been ruined by the storm, now felt even more joyful because everyone had overcome the challenges together. Amina walked quietly through the crowd, helping where she could without calling attention to herself. She adjusted a table here, helped a child there, and encouraged someone to tie a ribbon more tightly. Each small act made a difference, and the villagers began to notice the careful attention she gave to everything around her. Hawa stood nearby, watching her granddaughter with pride. "Look at her," she whispered softly to herself. "She has embraced who she is. She does not need to shout or demand respect. Her actions speak louder than words." As the day went on, more villagers came forward to express their gratitude. Bina, the fruit vendor, approached Amina with a warm smile. "Amina, you have done so much for us. The festival is perfect because of your guidance. You are truly special." Amina blushed slightly and nodded. "I only wanted to help. I am happy that everyone is safe and enjoying themselves." The children crowded around her, curious and excited. Bako held Pili the goat and looked at Amina with admiration. "You saved Pili. And you helped everyone. You are amazing." Amina laughed softly. "I only listened and acted carefully. Anyone can help if they pay attention and stay calm." The villagers continued to celebrate into the afternoon. They shared food, told stories and danced together. Everyone, even those who had once mocked Amina, now looked at her with respect. They saw her not only as the quiet girl who had always been different, but as a wise, kind, and strong leader. Amina walked to the center of the festival square and looked around at the happy faces. She felt a deep sense of pride and belonging. For so long she had been teased for being quiet, thoughtful, and careful. People had not understood her differences. But now she realized that her differences were her strengths. Her patience, her wisdom, her ability to stay calm and notice details, these were the qualities that made her a leader. She remembered the golden necklace she had revealed during the storm. The moment she showed it and declared herself the Queen of Ndari had been important, but she knew that her true strength was not in the title. Her true strength was in her actions, in her quiet courage, and in the kindness she had shown to everyone around her. Even Tay and Lila now understood this. They had learned an important lesson. Appearances can be deceiving, and those who seem quiet or different may have great strength and wisdom hidden within them. They approached Amina with smiles, no longer mocking or teasing, but with genuine admiration and respect. The festival continued as the sun began to set. Lanterns were lit, casting a warm glow over the village square. Children ran through the lantern light, their laughter echoing softly. Adults gathered to watch the dances and enjoy the music. Amina stood quietly near Hawa, watching the celebration with a smile. She felt a warm sense of happiness and peace. Hawa placed a hand on Amina's shoulder and whispered, "You have done well, my dear. You have shown them who you are without needing to prove it. They see your strength, your kindness, and your wisdom. You have embraced yourself and they respect you for it." Amina nodded, feeling proud of herself. She had learned that being different was not something to hide. Her quiet nature, her thoughtful mind, and her patience were gifts that allowed her to guide others and make a difference. She had turned the teasing and mockery she had experienced into a source of strength, showing everyone the true power of her heart. As night fell, the festival continued with music and dancing. Lanterns swayed gently in the breeze, and the stars appeared in the sky above Kidali. The villagers celebrated joyfully, their hearts light and happy. They had learned to appreciate Amina for who she truly was, and they admired her for the courage, wisdom, and kindness she had shown. Amina stood quietly in the square, watching the villagers dance and play. She felt a quiet pride in herself, knowing that her differences, once a source of teasing, were actually her greatest strengths. The villagers now saw her not just as a girl, but as a wise and kind leader, someone who could guide and protect them with quiet courage. Even those who had mocked her before, like Tay and Lila, now apologized sincerely. They had learned to respect her for her patience, her wisdom, and her gentle strength. The village had grown closer because of her leadership, and the celebration felt warmer and brighter because of the understanding and admiration she had earned. Amina smiled softly, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She had embraced her true self, and in doing so had shown the villagers the value of kindness, patience, and quiet strength. She knew that leadership was not about being loud or demanding attention, but about helping others, listening carefully, and acting with wisdom and courage. As the festival drew to a close, villagers began to head home, still talking about the events of the day. Children carried small lanterns, waving them as they walked. Adults gathered in groups, sharing stories and laughter. Amina and Hawa walked home slowly, hand in hand, enjoying the peaceful night and the soft glow of the lanterns. Hawa smiled at Amina. "You have shown them the true meaning of leadership. You have been brave, wise, and kind. They see you now not just as a quiet girl, but as a queen in their hearts." Amina nodded, feeling warmth in her chest. She realized that being herself, embracing her differences, and using her gifts to help others had earned her respect and love. She had proven that strength comes in many forms, and that quiet courage can change the hearts of those around you. As they reached their small house on the edge of the village, Amina looked back at the square, glowing softly in the lantern light. She felt proud of herself and grateful for the people who had begun to understand her. The village of Kidali had celebrated not just the harvest, but the true strength of a young girl who had been different, wise, and kind. That night, as Amina lay in bed, she thought about the day's events. She had faced challenges, guided the villagers, and shown courage during the storm. She had embraced her true self and discovered the power of patience, kindness, and wisdom. She had turned teasing and mockery into understanding and admiration. And she knew, deep in her heart, that her journey as a leader had only just begun. The village of Kidali slept peacefully, the festival lights glowing faintly in the night. Amina closed her eyes, feeling content and proud. She had discovered that her differences were gifts, and that by being herself she could inspire and guide others. She smiled softly, knowing that her quiet strength, wisdom, and courage had made a difference, and that the villagers would remember her not just as a girl, but as a wise, kind, and strong queen. And so, the harvest festival ended with music, laughter, and joy. The villagers had learned an important lesson about respect, understanding, and the quiet power of those who are different. Amina, once mocked and underestimated, had shown them all the true meaning of leadership. She had embraced herself fully, and the village had embraced her in return, celebrating her quietly powerful presence and her gift of wisdom, courage, and kindness.